IAS Academy.
Hello all, welcome to IAS Academy and welcome back to the program Editorial Daily, where we deal with editorial analysis which enriches your perspective and enhances your answer writing. So let's get started with our today's session. Yes, the first article for today is how the genetic history reveals why some languages are so unique. So, this topic, which connects the genetics, human migration, and the language diversity, this article basically connects. So, this article explains that while human genes and the languages often change together, so they do not always follow the same pattern. So, by studying these both concepts, the scientists can better understand the history of a human civilization. Okay, so when we look into it, India itself is an excellent example of a linguistic country. Okay, so where languages like Hindi, Tamil, Telugu, Kannada, Bengali, and Marathi which differ significantly, even though many people share many common ancestors. Okay, so this raises an important question: why are some neighbor languages very different from one another? This is what the major question which is it rising. Okay, so for this we can answer like this. Says that the researchers has analyzed over 4,200 languages and genetic information for around 7,500 human population worldwide. Okay, so upon this research and the findings, what is the key findings which they have come through is the long term isolation which creates a unique languages. Like, see, when we see this regions that remained the geographically isolated for the centuries has developed highly distinct languages, and since there was a little interaction with outsiders, the languages has evolved independently, and over time the differences has accumulated, making the languages unique. Okay, and few human contact makes the languages similar. When we see in this perspective, the migration, the trade, and the what you call the cultural exchange allows the people to borrow the vocabulary from different people and different regions, and the grammar and the pronunciation how they speak. So therefore, the neighboring languages often become more similar through continuous interactions. Okay, now this is how we can tell about this article. Let us see this article in a complete detailed way, and let's link this article to the syllabus, to which syllabus which we can link. Okay, so yes, we will look this article in a complete detailed way. How just genetic history, which reveals why some languages are so unique. So the author of this article is Anirban Mukhopadhyay, who is the geneticist and the science communicator. And the study is referred inverse correlation between a structural linguistic and human genetic diversity, that is PNAS May 2026, which we can take up. Okay, yes. Coming to the context of the topic which we see, it is a pioneer which is a pioneering interdisciplinary study which is combining global linguistic data sets with human genetic data has revealed an immense correlation between the structural linguistics and the diversity and the human genetic diversity. So the research provides a deep insights into how this historical isolation, the ancient migration patterns, and the demographic shifts has shaped the evolution of human languages before the large scale population movements has uninformized the global cultures. This is the complete context of this article. How can we link this article to our syllabuses? For GS paper 1, we can link this article to the salient features of Indian society, diversity of India, anthropology, and the human evolution traits. Okay, next, for GS paper 3 also we can link this article to the science and technology, the developments and their applications and effects in the everyday life, the sociogenomics and the bioinformatic applications we can link this article to. Okay, now when we see the scope and methodology of the study based on the article which we see, the data sheet which has been released, that the researchers has assembled one of the largest interdisciplinary data sets of its kind, combining structural data for more than 4,200 languages with the genetic data from over 5,700 individual, representing the 650 distinct population worldwide. Okay, this is the data set which the researchers has been taken up. Now, coming to the analytical framework, how it has been framed is the globe was divided into hundreds of roughly 500 kilometers, 500 kilometers wide hexagonal cells, these are hexagons, right? So in this type, for 500 kilometers, one wide hexagonal cell has been created. So within each cell, two primary variables were calculated. What is that? That is the diversity of the structural linguistic features among the local languages and the genetic diversity of the local human populations. This is what the analytical framework the scientist has taken. Next, measuring the structural differences. How come? The study did not merely count the number of languages in the region. Instead, it used a checklist of 333 distinct structural characteristics. Example, the word order patterns, whether a language distinguishes between a hand and a finger, or uses a single term for both. Okay, so to measure how much this neighboring languages has differed from one another. Okay, yes. And coming to the global data set at a glance, which we see, the linguistic data has given 4,200 plus languages, and the genetic data is taken from the individuals of 5,700 plus, and the populations who are represented are 650 distinct populations worldwide. Okay, now coming to the core findings and the inverse correlation which we see between this genetic identification and the diverse languages. First is the isolation breeds and the structural variance. When the regions where human populations remained relatively isolated over a long period as a harbor which is significantly more diverse and unique than the structural linguistic features. Okay, so this mathematical difference which is associated with long-term isolation was roughly equivalent to a variation of 11 items out of 333 checked characteristics between the neighboring tongues. Okay, so long-term isolation, high structural linguistic diversity. Okay, yes, obviously when people are living when we compare this Andaman and Nicobar Islands, if we take an example, the people living in Nicobar speaks in a very different language when compared to the people which is living in the Andaman Islands. Okay, so their way of behavior is completely different, and the way of behavior of these people is also different because they have been being isolated for so many long years without any interactions to the normal people. They have been creating a tribe and they are being in a particular isolated place, and they doesn't mingle with the people, so that their language, their way of behaviors, and the linguistic diversity has been also developed within them. And taking one of the example is Andaman and Nicobar Islands. Okay, next, coming to the migration drives and the linguistic coverage convergence which we can see, the regions are shaped by frequent human migration, trade, and the sustained contact which contained the languages that were structurally much more similar to one another. Okay, so the frequent contact and migration has gives the linguistic convergence. Obviously, when we move from one country to another country, or else from one region to one another region, or else a state to a state, we develop that speaking language, like that accent we develop, we will be habited to talk to persons with that same accent which that people are talking. This is what we develop when we frequently have contact with other people. Okay, next, coming to the pattern resilience. When we see the pattern resilience, this inverse correlation between the genetic and the structural linguistic diversity has provided the remarkably persistent across statistical tests. So it highlights a fundamental law in human cultural geography, that inverse correlation is a robust and persistent across the statistical tests. This is what the patterns of resilience which we can talk about. Now, coming to the defining that spread zones versus the accumulation zones which we see, when we see the spread zones, which the areas repeatedly reshaped by the large population movements as associated with the historical spread of farming, state or imperial expansion and recent colonialism. Okay, so The spread of farming, which leads to the state or imperial expansion, all the colonialism, or the frequent contact and the exchange. So in these zones, the contact force languages to borrow words, sounds, and the grammatical features, making them gradually more alike. Okay. Now, coming to the accumulation zones, what is this? These are the geographically isolated pockets that acts as a linguistic hotspots. When you say, take an example of New Guinea, the home to more than 800 languages with remarkable varied structure. Okay, so the long histories of this relative isolation has allowed the unique linguistic differences to accumulate independently over time rather than being smoothed out of the repeated migration. Okay, next, coming to the anthropological and the evolutionary implications, which we see is, first is windows to a vanished world. Windows to a vanished world, that is nothing but accumulation zones which preserve the vital traces of an ancient linguistic world that exist before the massive historical migrations and the uninformized human speech. So they offer a glimpse into a full breadth of linguistic structures, and humans are capable of learning, transmitting, and processing also. Okay, yes. Coming to the genes versus languages, we can see the findings do not imply that the human genes biologically determine the languages. It is not the genes will give you this languages and all. The historical movements leave the footprints in the both genetic and the linguistic patterns, but they do not always travel together. Okay, so genetic diversity just acts as an excellent historical proxy of population movement or isolation, which is turn shapes language and evolution, which in turn shapes out the language evolutions. Okay, next, yes, the threat of language loss. What is this threat of language loss? When we see the key finding, the findings make the ongoing global loss of small isolated languages exceptionally consequential. So documenting them is essential to make the to preserve a complete record of the human cognitive and the cultural variations in India or in world or in global. Okay, so many of the tribal languages or any distinct languages of the some rural areas has being extincted. So it is our responsibility to get it documented. Okay, now coming to the conclusion of the topic, which we see, so the study has highlights the immense value of using the socio-genomic and bioinformatics tool to decode the human history. So by demonstrating the how the local microprocesses has repeated over the centuries leave the broader signatures on global language diversity, the research underscores the urgent need to protect the endangered tribal and isolated languages such as those found in the indigenous pockets of Amazonia, the upper Rio Negro, or the parts of India as a invaluable, invaluable repositories of human heritage. Okay. Now, there are few key terminologies which we can take up from this article is, first is the inverse correlation. What is this inverse correlation? It is a statistical relationship where an increase in one variable in the sense one variable to another variable. One variable which we consider is example the human genetic diversity, which is driven by the population mixing, which is corresponded with a decrease in another variable. What is that another variable is? Example, the structural linguistic unequivalence. Okay, next. Next is structural linguistic diversity. What is it? It is the degree of variation in the core grammar, the syntax, the what you call the word order, and the semantic rules between the neighboring languages, which is moving beyond the simple vocabulary differences. This is what you call structural linguistic diversity. Next, accumulation zone. What is this accumulation zone? It is a geographically isolated region that allows diverse cultural or the linguistic traits to evolve independently and accumulate over time without being erased by the external migrants. Okay. Now, what is the spread zone? Spread zone is nothing but a highly connected geographic region categorized by the frequent population movements like trade or the imperial expansion that results in the cultural and the linguistic convergence. Okay. Now, The last thing is the linguistic hotspot. What is it? It is a unique geographical area where the harboring a high concentration of highly diverse, distinct, and historically isolated languages that are vital to understanding the human cultural evolution. Okay, these are the few key terminologies which we can take up from this article. Okay, yes, moving on to the next article. Yes. So the next article for today is, can biogas aid India's energy security? This article is completely based on the India's energy security, renewable energy, and the sustainable development. So this article basically explores whether this biogas, particularly the compressed biogas, particularly the compressed biogas, can reduce the India dependency on the imported fossil fuels and strengthen the energy security in India. This is what the main article is talking about. So basically, we know, we have spoken about this issue many times. India is importing nearly 85% of the crude oil from other countries, which is making it highly vulnerable to the global geopolitical tensions. Like when we have seen this West Asian wars and all, when the Strait of Hormuz has been blocked, we have faced a lot of crisis of this crude oil, or either the petrol, this diesel and all. Though we are not much crized about this petrol and diesel, though we have the reserves, but there are few tensions, like blocking the Strait of Hormuz had led us the ships, well, and not allowing the ships and all, has created a geopolitical tension in our country. So such of conflicts which have seen, which we have seen in the West Asia. So therefore, developing the indigenous renewable fuels like the biogas has become a national priority now. Okay, so let us see what is this biogas. Basically, biogas is a renewable fuel, renewable renewable fuel which is produced through the anaerobic digestion. What is this anaerobic digestion? Anaerobic condition is the decomposition which happens in the absence of oxygen. When we decompose something in the absence of oxygen, then we call the condition as anaerobic condition. Okay, such as when we take up few organic matters to prepare this biogas, when we see the organic matters like the residue, the animal dung, the food waste, and the municipal organic waste. Okay, these are the few organic components which we can decompose it in the anaerobic condition and produce the biogas. Okay, so major components are the methane and the carbon dioxide basically. So after the purification, the biogas becomes the compressed biogas. Okay, so which has properties similar to the compressed natural gas which have been using in the cars and all CNGs. Okay, and can be used as a transport fuel or for a cooking and industrial purposes also we can use this compressed biogas. Okay, yes. And why is this biogas more important for India? Why it is that much important to have this biogas is, biogas has offers multiple benefits, like it reduces the dependency on the imported crude oil, the main thing, and the natural gas which we are importing from other countries. And it converts the agricultural and the municipal waste which is being in dumps and dumps in our country into the valuable energy, and increases the income farmer. Obviously, when the agricultural waste which is being collected from the farmer, it is creating a second income to the farmer, right? So by creating a market for this agricultural residues, and obviously it reduces the stubble burning and the environmental pollution also, and it supports the Indian climatic commitments by lowering the greenhouse gas emissions, and promotes a circular economy to a wealth to waste to wealth initiatives. Okay, yes, there are few government initiatives also to take up this, like SATAT, which we see. SATAT. It is nothing but the sustainable alternative towards the affordable transportation, which is launched in basically 2018. Okay, so what is this stat aim is to establish a thousands of CBG plants across the country, which is encouraging the production of the compressed biogas from agricultural and organic waste. And another initiative also we can see is Gobar Gobar Gobardhan scheme, which we can see it promotes the conversion of this cattle dung and the organic waste into biogas and biofertilizers. Okay, and it also supports the rural sanitation and income generation. This is one of the thing. And when we can see another what you called another program and initiative which is taken up by India is National Biofuels Coordination Committee in 2023, which has been given, which is approved mandatory blending of this compressed biogas with natural gas. That is, blending starts at 1% in the financial year 2026, it has been said, and will gradually increase to 5% by financial year 2029. This has been given up from the program of National Biofuel Coordination Committee 2023. Okay, yes, let us see this article in a complete detailed manner and let us understand this. Yes, the title goes like, can biogas aid the India's energy security? Nowadays, energy security is very a big concern in India. Okay, now let us see the context of the topic. The context is the geopolitical tensions, which is in West Asia, and the events like Israel-US Iran war, which is continually places global energy markets on edge, because India imports nearly 85% of its crude oil needs and around 90% of the LPG imports, much of it transiting through the vulnerable Strait of Hormuz, which have been blocked in the West Asian wars. So the country remains highly susceptible to external energy shocks. So while India has actively pushed this compressed biogas initiatives to reduce the import dependency and tackle the agricultural waste and boost the rural income, progress on the grounds has remained limited. Okay, yes. And how can we link this article to the syllabus is, we can link to GS paper 3, like for Indian economy and the issues related to the mobilization of resources, infrastructure, energy, like especially the renewable energy, the biofuels, science and technology developments and their applications in everyday life, and the technological machines and the agriculture, the crop diversity and food security also we can link this article to. Okay, next, for GS paper 2 also we can link this article, like for the government policies and the interventions for the development in various sectors and issues arising out of their design and implementation. Okay, yes. Now, when we see the science and the potential of compressed biogas, which we have discussed already, we'll see the chemical profile first. What is it? It is a basically the CBG, the compressed biogas, is a mixture of methane and carbon dioxide. So, a small quantities of other gases produced via the anaerobic digestion of organic matter. As I said, the anaerobic condition is absence of oxygen, which gives the anaerobic condition. Okay. Now, CNG equivalence. What is the CNG equivalence? How the CBG, this compressed biogas, has been equivalent to the CNG which we are using is, when it is processed and purified and compressed, it becomes the compressed biogas. When this biogas has been processed, the purified and compressed, it becomes the compressed biogas. So, which is chemically identical to the conventional compressed natural gas which we are using. Okay. Now, coming to the utility matrix, how can we use this biogas is, being the renewable and carbon neutral, the compressed biogas can be produced directly from the organic waste and utilized for the automotive transport fuel, the grid electricity generation and heating, or the commercial cooking purpose also we can use this CBGs. Okay, next, coming to the institutional interventions and the the implementation bottlenecks which we can see from this is, first is the state initiative. Basically, it is launched in 2018. 2018, the sustainable alternative towards the affordable transportation, that is STAT, as SAT, which we have discussed. So, this initiative set a ambitious target to establish a 5,000 CBG plants, 5,000 CBG plants by 2023. So, what is the progress update of this is, as of June 3rd, 2026, the target is basically 5,000 plants, but only 132 plants have been completed as of now. So, the execution has a severe lag. Okay. Next, coming to the Govardhan scheme, this scheme has this is under the waste to wealth umbrella framework from the central government. So, it offered the financial assistance up to 50 lakhs per district for community biogas plants. So, it earmarked the 5,564 crores for purchasing the biomass collection machinery, and allocated 994 crores to build the pipelines which are connecting biogas plants directly to the gas grid. Okay, this is what the Govardhan scheme is. Next is the core structural bottlenecks. What are the bottlenecks which the government has been seeing is, despite the financial outlays and the uh, program which remains the constraint due to a combination of missing the supply chain infrastructure, low private sector investment, and difficulty in accessing the formal credit, and high upfront technology costs. Okay, so the market analyst argues that the sector requires robust fiscal boosters like the accelerated depreciation and the extended tax holiday to ensure the economic viability. So these are the few bottlenecks which we can see to initiate this programs. Okay, yes. Next, coming to the unattended agricultural consequences, the con mena lesson which we can see. The first is the transitional precedent. What is it? It is the development of biogas globally is highly uneven. So with Europe, China, and US commanding 90% of the global production. Okay, when we see the Germany has incentivized the production via its with its renewable energy source act 2000, has guaranteed the income and bonuses to the operators of this biogases. Okay, next is the distortion of the cropping patterns. So because of using these crops as a feedstock becomes the high profitable, it is triggered an artificial corn mania where maize rapidly replaced food crops over a decade. Okay, so the German government was eventually forced to intervene or place a strict cap on using a maize in biogas plant. Okay, next. Next is the Indian parallel. When we see the perspective of India, a smaller risk is developing in India due to the skewed ethanol pricing policies. Okay, so the government has administered the higher prices for a maize based ethanol when compared to the rice or molasses based variants, which is driving a carg of 11.7 percentage in maize prices between financial year 2022 and financial year 2025. Okay, next, the threat to food security. How come it becomes a threat to the human food security is, while the national maize yields rose from 2.56 tons per hectare in financial year 2016 to approximately 3.78 tons per hectare by financial year 2025, which is a very drastical change. So the other critical crops like oil seeds, the pulses, the soya, the sunflower, and the millets has stagnant or declined. Okay, so over incentivizing this feedstocks cultivation has inadvertently threatens the India's crop diversity and exhibits its dependency on imported pulses and edible oils. Okay, next, coming to the Denmark alternative, the Denmark has targeting the 100% of biomethane in its gas system by 2030. So offers a sustainable path. So it actively discourages the food crops as the feedstock and relying exclusively on the livestock manure and the genuine agricultural waste. This is what the Denmark has come up with the initiative. Okay, now let us see the way forward, the government action plan which we can see. The first is mandatory blending mandates. Mandatory blending mandates, that in 2023 the National Biofuels Coordination Committee has approved a mandatory blending obligation, that the gas distributors are mandated to blend the CBG into the supplies. Like by financial year 2026, 1% of CBG has to be mixed. By 2027, 2%. By 2028, 3%, and by financial year 2029, 5% of CBG has to be mixed with the normal gas which we are using. This is what the committee, the biofuels coordination committee, has taken. Okay, so this phased the blending will cover the CNG for transport and pipeline natural gas for domestic networks also. Okay, yes. Now replicating the ethanol success story, the same ethanol success story which has been replicating. Like the primary challenge in whether the India can replicate its successful ethanol blending journey with the CBG, this is what the primary concern is. So in 2014 the ethanol blending stood a meager like 1.5 percentage. Through aggressive policy support it reached 20 percentage by December 2025, which is achieving its target 5 year ahead of the schedule. Okay, so in 2014, it is just 1.5 percentage of ethanol blending has been done. But in December 2025, 20 percentage has been achieved. Basically, we had a target for 2030, but by 2025 itself we have achieved this target. So the target has achieved 5 years ahead of the schedule, which is achieving the identical success in CBG will require the stabilizing the supply chain for non-food biomasses, to encourage the offtake mandates, and providing long-term regulatory clarity to private developers, and to ensuring the stable policy and fiscal support. Okay, these are the few identical successes which we can have in CBG has to be there. Okay, next, coming to few key terminologies for the answer writing which we take up from this article is anaerobic digestion. As we said, it is a biochemical process where the microorganisms break down into the biodegradable material in the absence of oxygen and generating the methane rich biogas. Okay, next, compressed biogas. What is it? It is a purified biogas that has been stripped of carbon dioxide, and the hydrogen sulfide, which impurities, and compressed to high pressure, making it a direct substitute for fossil fuel CNG. Okay, next, SATAT initiative. This initiative is nothing but a specialized government initiative which is aimed at setting up a compressed biogas production plants and making them available in the market for use in automotive fuels. Okay, next. Next is Gobardhan scheme. What is this scheme? It is a glancing organic bio agro resource dhan, which is a central scheme which is focusing on managing and converting the cattle dung and the solid agricultural waste into compost and biogas. Okay. Next, cropping pattern distortion. What is this? This is nothing but a undesirable shift in the regional agricultural practices, where the farmers have a clear diverse food crops to cultivate in a single heavily subsidized crop, which is undermining the long term ecological balance and food security. Okay, yes. And yes, these are the two articles for today which we have seen. I hope everyone liked this video. To have a detailed PDF of this, do visit our website and download it from there. Do like, share, and subscribe to our YouTube channel, and do follow our Telegram channel and Instagram channel as well for your UPSC preparation. And all the links are provided in the description below. And yes, I'll see you all tomorrow with another editorial analysis. Thank you.